What's going on, people? Welcome back to the channel. Had fun doing that first Q&A, so I figured I would give that another shot. I'm in the car again on lunch break. I got a better spot picked out this time because really nobody's looking. Got my SpaghettiOs, got my water, sugar, and purple. That might just have to be a thing for these things. SpaghettiOs and that grape drink. So I'm gonna start out on Facebook. This question is from Alexander Anderson. Okay, so it's kind of long, but here we go. I have plans to start my own Pokemon mystery dungeon comic, but I don't think I have the artistic ability to make it. And the thought of writing it as a story, no comic, but I'm still deciding. Which way do you think I should make it, a story or a comic? So, you know in your gut whether or not your artwork is good enough or not to do it with pictures as a comic or some kind of graphic novel. And if you're really feeling in your gut that you're not good enough on that end, maybe you keep it a book. You know, if you're still working on your artwork, I would tell you to wait. I would tell you to just concentrate on writing first. But when you get to the level of you know, artistic ability that you feel comfortable with, then go for it. Or throw my advice out the window and just do it. It's kind of a question only you can answer, but good luck either way. Okay, this next name, I'm gonna butcher the hell out of it, so Lee, you'll have to tell me, but I'm reading this as Miller. Lee Miller. It's not spelled anywhere near Miller, but it looks like Miller to me, so you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong. So I've seen your collection video. So awesome. So I was wondering, how do you maintain it all, especially the individual out-of-box pieces from dust, any light or moisture from possibly breaking down the boxes, and so on. So I use all the LEDs in my collection room to kind of cut out on any kind of damage the lights would do to it, and I keep blinds down in that room. There's no sunlight really that gets into that room. I have a dehumidifier running, so I kind of try to keep moisture down as best as I can. As far as dusting, I'm going to be completely honest with you, I'm a little lax on that, and I should a couple times a year, or at least once a year, probably a couple times a year, take that on, which can be a pain in the ass when you got a collection the size of mine. But yeah, it's probably time. I don't dust as much as I should, but I should probably start. But as far as light and moisture and everything, I'm extremely careful about all that stuff. Next question is from Mark Roberts. Is there a piece in your collection that you have that is good for what it is, but you hope that someday, or that someone someday will make a more accurate one down the road? Also, a great job on the video last time. Thanks, Mark. As for your question, there's a few pieces that I'll look at in the collection as far as the 3P and Masterpiece collection go. I think Sandstorm and Octane are the first two that come to mind. I would like, especially the Sandstorm. The Octane's actually not too bad. But yeah, I would like a Sandstorm. And don't get me wrong, I'm happy that somebody made a Sandstorm to begin with. But yeah, that one's a little on the weak side. That's the first one that pops into my head. Next question, Ralph Immel. Has any company ever made a Transformer entirely out of metal with no plastic? I didn't research this, but to the best of my memory, I don't believe so. I don't know how the hell you can make a Transformer with all metal, because as far as parts tabbing into each other and stuff, plastic just works better. So yeah, I'm not remembering an entire die-cast transforming figure. So that doesn't mean that one doesn't exist. It just means that I don't remember it. Pete Burkheister is next. I hope I got your name right. I think I left the T out last time. Very well done on the first video, and you didn't murder my name too much. Without going too deep, since we are both metalheads, what are your favorite bands? What is your favorite band, or are your favorite bands? I'd have to say my top 3 metal bands are Slipknot, Killswitch Engage, and Nonpoint. See, asking me what my favorite bands is kind of tough. Like my favorite band of all time is Van Halen. which is actually part of the next question coming up. I am a metalhead, but I'm definitely pretty open-minded when it comes to listening to music. I have a pretty wide range of taste, except for country music. I apologize for any country fans out there that I just offended, but can't do it. But any other kind of music, pretty much listen to. I mean, I'm obviously, more of a hard rock guy, and metal, but so my favorite couple bands are probably, Van Halen, Guns N' Roses, Motley Crue, those type of bands. If you ask me my favorite metal bands, if we're going classic metal, I would probably say Black Sabbath, Metallica, and Megadeth are probably my 3 favorite old school metal bands. And if you're talking newer metal, over the last 20-25 years, I would say Killswitch is definitely a great pick. Yeah, that's definitely a great pick. Seven Dust and Avenged Sevenfold, and I know all the Avenged Sevenfold, all the meathead Avenged Sevenfold fans that hate them for selling out are probably crushing me right now, but I mean, if you can't listen to a bunch of their albums, especially when the Rev was still alive, and appreciate them for one of the most talented metal bands you ever heard, I don't understand. Yeah, they were just so good, and so diverse, they weren't writing the same song over and over again. They were definitely, like I said, when the Rev was still alive, they were out of control. Next question, and by the way, I love the music questions. Steve Morrison asks, Diamond Dave era Van Halen or Sammy Hagar? So I don't have a straight answer for that either. My twisted answer for that is, so 5150 came out when I was 10 years old. I basically grew up pretty much in the Van Hagar era. So probably as a kid and maybe even into my early 20s, I was probably more of a Van Hagar fan. And then after I started playing guitar and started playing in bands and stuff and got a little bit older, I definitely went back and then it became the Diamond Dave stuff. So, which was totally awesome. I mean, he's probably the greatest frontman of all time. Rock and roll frontman, But now that I'm older, I would probably say that I appreciate them equally as basically 2 different bands that shared the same name. It's hard for me to compare the 2 of them because they were just so vastly different. I think that Sammy's Van Halen was a little bit more of a mature approach when it came to songwriting and stuff, and Dave was more, I mean, he was the 1980s embodied. So it was just 2 separate Van Halens to me, and really, if you held a gun to my head, I really couldn't pick one over the other. So yeah, it's a tough question. Laura Dawson next. Quintessa and Unicron, what do you think the next reveal will be about these 2? I have so many more questions. Earth is Unicron, Unicron using Earth as a host. Quintessa, truly prime of life, creator of all Transformers. So I think your question is really kind of referring more to the movieverse, and like I know that I've kind of been not so nice when talking about the movieverse, the Bayverse on this channel or anywhere, because I just really wasn't a fan of it. So I can't even really tell you that I'm up on the entire storyline from the movieverse past maybe, the first movie. The events of 2 through 5 are kind of foggy, and then I picked back up on Bumblebee, which was a reboot. So I probably can't answer the question the way that I think you not want me to answer it, but in the way that you're asking it. As far as Unicron, I'm maybe a little bit Unicroned out. I think that they introduced Unicron as the final boss, so to speak, in just about every continuity of Transformers, and maybe it's time for a change. I can't say I'm tired of the Quintessa, as you put it, but the Quintessons from G1, I think there's still a lot of room to do stuff with those characters, but yeah, I'm not really sure. I think I'm more for seeing more Quintessons, and I'm a little, I'm donezo on Unicron, maybe just to put them on the back burner a little bit. So we'll see what goes on there with the IDW comics and moving forward in the movies. But Yeah, sorry I couldn't answer that. I'm an old cranky G1 head. So, next question, Jerry Roca. Let me know if I butchered that. I have a couple questions. I'm a bit of a collector myself. I have about 80% of all the G1s. What is your most prized G1 figure? And if there was a fire, which one would you grab first? So I explained why Skywarp is my most prized G1 figure on the last video, so you can check that out. But if there was a fire, which one would you grab first? And I think one isn't fair because I have two hands and I'm a smart guy. And I know that if the house is on fire, I'm grabbing all the expensive stuff, all the small expensive stuff. Minerva and, you know, Blue Bacchus and Black Shadow and a couple of those figures, Grandest, that are kind of smaller but super expensive. That's what I'm grabbing in the end of a fire. After all my girlfriend and the pets are out of the house, then I go back for the toys. Let's move over to Instagram. Ryan Savage 96. Ryan Savage 96 asks, what is your favorite vehicle from G1? I really like the Seekers. I'm a Seeker guy. I love those jets, man. I always loved the jets. They were just so cool, and even outside of you know, Transformers lore, you know, even, you know, the Robotech jets, Top Gun, you name it. I just always thought the jets were very cool, especially a team of them. And second part of his question, what are your opinions on the storyline in the G1 movie? So the storyline in the G1 movie, I mean, it's, you know, it's probably filled with holes. If I was to be absolutely critical of the storyline, but as a movie, for us to watch a movie, when I saw the movie when I was 10, I was 8 when Transformers came out, so I was 10 when the movie hit the theaters, and I'm 43 now, and I know a lot of people that are in my age range that saw the movie around the same time in their life that I did, and to be able to still look back on that movie, you know, decades later, and quote the movie, and almost know it, you know, by heart, pretty much. I mean, it had a crazy effect on us. You know, the characters, the death of Optimus Prime was just one of the most horrific things I think I saw up to that point in my life. You know, Ironhide getting his head blown off by Megatron near the beginning of the movie and stuff. I mean, there was some crazy things that happened. You know, we heard, you know, a curse word in a cartoon. It was just incredible, everything that was going on in that movie. You know, the introduction of all the new characters, hating Hot Rod for years after the movie was over. You know, that movie had just a crazy effect on all of us, and we still, you know, buy stuff with the quotes on it, and you know, throw out scenes, you know, when we're at conventions, and it's just, you know, that's why I think it's one of the greatest animated movies of all time, because, you know, people to this day still hang on to it. Also on Instagram, B System. I'm a get my figure out of the box kind of guy. So what is your drive to collect box Transformers, even if the box has no windows? You know, I don't know if there was a conscious decision to collect box figures, but I think it just kind of happened. You know, I think over the years, so I had all the loose ones from growing up as a kid, and when I would see them at the conventions in boxes, especially back before the live action movies came out, you know, Transformers hit a low point where, you know, they were out of the limelight and stuff, and you can kind of get the figures at very affordable prices, which is, you know, the only reason I have all the ones I have. You know, I spent a lot of money on some of the white whales towards the end, but as far as the majority of my collection, I got all that stuff before the prices got out of control at conventions here and there, you know, bot cons, a little bit over eBay from time to time. So I amassed this this box collection, and years ago I started collecting the Masterpiece and the third-party figures, and to me, those characters, or the representations of those characters, were more, you know, kind of how I saw them as a kid on the screen. You know, they look the way they should, and those are the ones that I display loose, because I feel like they really like capture the spirit of all those characters. Where, you know, the G1 toys, I mean, filled with nostalgia, and you just remember getting them as kids, and they were like completely awesome and stuff. But when you look back at them now, they're not really all that great as toys. But to see them displayed that way in the boxes kind of brings back memories of, you know, being a kid and going into a Toys R Us or a KB and just seeing the wall of box figures and seeing, you know, rows of pegs of carded figures and stuff. And it was like, you know, that was the greatest place to be standing as a kid, was in front of all those, because it was like, just didn't know which one you wanted to try to get next, and it was a pretty awesome feeling standing there, you know. So that's probably why I display the G1 stuff in the boxes. But you know, I'll always have a loose collection of you know, third-party and masterpiece stuff. So thank you for the question. So now we're gonna move over to YouTube. I'm gonna take another swig of the purple real quick. Tailgate 009 asks, hope you and everyone else are staying safe. Your 10 bots, 10 shots are hilarious. The one with skids had me dying in laughter. My question, will you review Revenge of the Fallen Mudflap in the next 10 shots review to do the same? So I got bad news on all fronts. Unfortunately, me and Levy decided that we were gonna end 10 bots, 10 shots as a trilogy. You know, just before it got played out. You know, we had a great time doing them. There was some awesome, funny moments in all three of them. And I would advise, if you haven't watched the first one or the third one, to go back and watch those. There are 3 of them. So, and the only reason I actually reviewed that one is our friend Adam Urban had an extra and asked me if I wanted it. So he sent that along with the Revenge of the Fallen Devastator that we did the Office Space video with. So, and if you haven't heard that, I should put these links. I don't remember which side this is going to be on. Flip. I think it's this side right here. So, right here is the link to 10 bots, 10 shots, and I'm gonna give it a second. And then right here is the link to the Office Space video. So definitely check those out. But yeah, that's probably the last time I'm ever going to put my hands on a Bayformer. But glad that you enjoyed those videos, though. They were pretty funny. And really, the real star of the show was Levy. Next question is Onslaught 64. So when Starscream gets a body from Unicron and then floats out into space, what do you think happened to him? I think it would have been cool if he turned into the guy at the end of episode Only Human, because he sounds like Starscream. So there's a reason for that, and I don't know if you're being facetious or not, but they are the same guy. So Chris Latta was the voice actor for both Starscream and Old Snake, which was, you know, obviously Cobra Commander. My boy Jed, by the way, had a nifty idea for doing a Starscream with Old Snake as his headmaster, which is actually a pretty cool idea. Your idea is pretty cool too. You know, that's what Starscream would ended up being. I really don't know. Like, it's hard for me to put out of my head, and you know, Starscream as a ghost in Beast Wars and where the actual canon took the character, but I don't know if I really thought about it. You know, he just kind of floated off, and I just figured he was going to continue to pick through the Transformers universe, you know, possessing one character after another. But it is an interesting question about Old Snake. Like, would he be able to take over a human? You know, that might be a discussion all on its own. But yeah, that is a very good question, and I don't have that great of an answer for it. Next up, so this is from a retro, and by the way, you should check out the Retro Now channel on YouTube. He has a fun channel. So fellow Birds fan, so go Birds. And he asks, do you sit or stand? I asked this question to my classmates in art class. Every single person answered and knew what I meant. Do you? Of course I know what you meant. And I'm going to tell you something. I like to throw the world a curveball. I sit when I pee, but I stand up to shit. So, moving on to the last question. This one's from Cooper's Films. In your personalized headcanon, Does Beast Wars take place in the G1 cartoon, or is it some alternate universe? So that's a great question. And I have to separate myself from what actually happened, because as we know, it was revealed towards the end, I think, of the first season of Beast Wars that Beast Wars was actually part of the G1 universe. And up until that point, you know, I don't know that I really cared about Beast Wars. I actually just flat out didn't like it. And I don't know if it was just kind of a retro type of thing where, you know, they didn't necessarily intend for that to be the case, and maybe they weren't getting enough support out of the G1 fans for Beast Wars, and kind of threw that in there as an opportunity to draw the G1 fans, and which it did, because I started paying attention after that a little bit. But it's hard for me to imagine it as part of the G1 cartoon or the G1 universe as a whole, because of the way it was presented. IDW went on to successfully combine those universes in their comic book universe, because, you know, we remember seeing Tarantulas and Rat Trap and a number of those characters kind of mixed in with all the Optimus Primes and Megatrons of the world. So they did a really successful job at doing it, and you know, they kind of took out how they were a different scale, and they all made them all, you know, kind of the same scale and everything. So I thought that was an interesting take. I think in my head, I can picture Beast Wars as part of G1, but I wouldn't really necessarily see them as we saw them in the cartoon, because they were, you know, robots that turned into very much organic looking creatures, and I don't know if I see it that way. I think if I saw Beast Wars as part of G1, it would be more of like a, you know, Predacons, the G1 Predacons, Dinobots, Terracons. They, you know, they were beasts, you know, Skylinks, Slugfest and Overkill. I could keep going, but they were beasts, but they were still very much robotic. And I think that would be how I would see it in my head if I was to write it on my own. But yeah, it's pretty good question. So yeah, that's all the questions for this time. This has been fun. I like how a couple people asked music questions. I thought that was very cool. Sorry if I couldn't really answer it, some of the questions, because, you know, it was Bayverse type stuff, but, you know, I'm just not knowledgeable, so just rather not do it than throw some bullshit out there. But anyway, this should be up. I'm doing this on a Wednesday during lunch break, so I should probably have this up by Thursday, Friday by the latest. So thanks again for participating. Thanks for checking out the Reflector Files. Thanks for buying t-shirts off of DragonstarShop.com. I appreciate the support as always. And if you guys enjoy these Q&A videos, I wouldn't mind doing them. You know, not a big deal to take a lunch break and communicate with some of the fans. So I dig it. Have a good one. More to come.